Let's call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Batavia Public Library District for February 17, 2015. And let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to a smaller flag here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
McGuire Popick, absent. Blodgett is absent. Beechman.
Here.
Von Moonen.
Here.
Jacobowski here. Sullivan.
Here.
Schuster here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Item 4 is comments from the audience. Seeing none, we can move on to item 5, tonight's consent agenda, which consists of minutes from January 20, expenditures from January 2015, and then action items, the technology plan for 2015 through 2018, and the budget for Link. Would any trustee like to remove any of these items for a separate vote? Okay, do I?
Excuse me, Doug, I'd like to remove item agenda 5C, the Link budget. I have a couple questions on it.
Okay. We'll remove item 5C to, let's do that after, we can make that item 15 and a half.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So, do we need a separate vote on removing it, or do we just do a vote on amended consent agenda?
I think this is amended.
Okay. All right, so can I hear a motion for to approve the consent agenda as amended by removing 5C2, so it will now just consist of 5A1, 5B1, and 5C1.
So moved.
Okay. Second by Schuster. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Consent agenda as amended is approved. And then item 6 is approving tonight's regular agenda.
I'll make a motion we approve the agenda as submitted.
As amended to add,
Oh, right. Including
Oh,
item,
15.
15 and a half, which will be the budget for Link. Thank you. Okay, and then second by Schuster. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay. Our amended agenda is approved.
who did the motion?
I did.
Tom.
Oh, thanks.
Okay. All right, moving on to item 7, which is board education. We actually, I should have noted this as we were calling for an agenda motion, but this actually is item 5 called technology. So I'll turn this one over to George.
The cutting and pasting of the agenda item failed because I forgot to change it to chapter 5 technology, but since it's not an action item, it doesn't affect us reviewing this item. And it is correct on the report. Every year, for a number of years, we've had a chapter to review as part of the Illinois Library Standards as part of our per capita grant application. And this year it is Chapter 5 on technology of Serving Our Public 3.0. And going back through my records, we had not, this is the first time in my tenure that we've reviewed this particular chapter, and in fact, this chapter was just added in the Standards 2.0, so it's a relatively new description. I'm trying to think of another phraseology than saying it's technical, but it's there's a lot of technical points that they call out. You have, in fact, reviewed the core standards as part of other chapters. The only core standard that is new is, that has not been looked at before, is core standard 24, which relates to reviewing the suitability of the physical facility. We, obviously through the master plan and other processes, review our physical facility periodically. We don't formally review its, whether it's sufficient to meet the needs of the community every 5 years, but it just so happens that some of the aspects of the community survey helped us in that regard, and we will, in the not too distant future, be looking at an update of our master plan, which also relates to that. Otherwise, most everything we are doing in some way, shape, or form. There are lots of notes in here. I don't have anything particularly specific to call out. I've tried to identify throughout things we're doing and plans we have done, and very specific technologies that we're using. So I guess maybe my best approach is to ask if anybody has any questions about any of the various elements of this.
Like last year, did we look at a different chapter?
Yeah.
We did. In fact, we looked at the collection management and resource sharing, which is the one I cut and pasted from.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, we do a chapter a year, and we have for many, many years, so.
The technology keeps changing so much.
It does. It does.
It's all going to change.
Another element of the per capita grant application, one of the requirements relates to the library edge, which is a statewide initiative to participate in what is a national initiative. And the library edge focuses nearly exclusively on technology. So in the next couple of years, we'll be talking a lot about various aspects of technology. But I would say our library is working pretty hard, through our departments to keep pace with changes in technology. Stacy's going to talk about a new service that launched yesterday that's very technology oriented, and we're trying to do, we are doing more with social media now than we were just a couple of years ago. We've got a very robust presence on Facebook and Twitter now, and a lot of followers, and growing every week. We're just a couple shy of 700 followers now, and so we keep trying to boost that number, and so we're doing a lot in that respect. And inside the library, there are a lot of programs, many of which are called out in here: individual computer coaching, various other kind of services and approaches, and keeping our technology up to date and things like that. So it's ironic to me that we're approving the new technology plan the same night we're reviewing technology, because a lot of what is called out in here, the fact that we have a technology plan and we look at it every year, I think helps us to keep tabs on. We're not perfect. We don't have enough money to do everything we want to do, but I think we're doing a good job, trying to maybe stay with the curve. And every so often, I think we can get ahead of the curve slightly, but technology does change a lot. So.
Just another question, just really quick. Where it says no policy on form 13 regarding the access to materials, the reference.
Yes, I've got. We just don't have a specific policy for access to materials. And the reference when the library board in the past, and this is going more than a decade in the past, decided to endorse guidelines related to reference rather than adopt a specific policy. I actually haven't seen a policy on access to materials. I'm sure some libraries have that, but I think the fact that we don't have one doesn't mean we're not doing something we should be doing. These are topics recommended, for public use of the library, and we do have, we cover borrowing privileges, amended that, supplemented that with our library card policy last year, and that has a lot to do with access. In terms of access to our collection, it is open access. We don't have a policy saying this, but we have open access to the collection. There's no restrictions by age. We allow statewide reciprocal borrowing. We allow state, national interlibrary loan access, and same with the service to patrons with disabilities. We do, as you can see through here, there are some technological approaches we take to disabilities, but with the new building we have an ADA accessible building, and we have some adaptive technologies, and just, on the staff level, we've never felt compelled to create a policy in those areas. If there's some interest on the board in us doing so, we certainly could.
Well, I guess my only concern with that would just be like if somebody came to them and said, well, what's your policy on this?
Mhm.
And then we don't really have anything. And we have to somehow take action.
Well, that's a good point. Although I'd tell them what I just told you, probably. I mean, in terms of access to materials, we have no restrictions on access to materials, so we have
Right.
a policy
I understand
saying
that.
there's no
Right, but I
restrictions.
just think, like, oh, you treated me differently than this person, or something along those lines.
Oh, yeah. That could happen. I mean, that could happen anytime. Yeah, I
We're
don't
not,
know.
yeah, I mean, maybe what Kara's getting at is we're not really required to have a policy on any of these. This is more of just recommendations.
Mhm.
So it very well could be that we should, but no one, I don't think it's any legal issue that we don't have it yet.
Right.
But I mean, it hasn't come up where somebody's come up and said anything regarding, I mean, like, where they've questioned.
Oh, over the last decade, I can think of maybe one or two instances where someone thought there might be, there was some concern about bias, maybe, in how, I can think of one person who was concerned that her daughter was maybe being treated differently than other people. And so I sat down with the mother and, to find out what her concern was and what had happened, and we resolved it through a simple conversation,
Okay.
I guess.
Well, no, that's fine with me. I was just curious.
Sometimes I think people whose kids go to Batavia schools but don't live in our library district, sometimes there are differences in what they can.
We do have
check out.
differences, yeah.
And I have heard complaints about that sometimes, that
We worked hard to, like on our internet, our computer use policy in the library. We actually worked a number of years ago to develop a system for Batavia students who do not live in the library district, and they go to the schools in Batavia. It's worked out pretty well, I think, over time. People who are in the Batavia school system, I think, assume that they generally belong in the Batavia library, but that doesn't always work.
Right.
I know that happens with children's programs, especially the summer programs, where students who maybe go to Batavia schools but who actually live outside of our district, and who may in fact have cards at other libraries, will occasionally come forward and want to participate in our reading club because ours is obviously the best. And our rule of thumb is you can participate in ours or your home library if you're qualified, if you qualify for ours, but we ask that you just pick one.
right.
And that way we're not trying to set ourselves up in competition with another
I
library.
know it's double dipping.
Well, it sounds
You
like
just
it's
don't-
covered, but I just wanted
It is,
some clarification on it.
Yeah, and on the staff level, we never felt like there was an issue there, especially with the access to materials. Service to patrons with disabilities, we actually are very cognizant of of some of those issues, which is why we have some adaptive technologies inside the library. Anyway, I think so. That's
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions for George on this technologies standards review? Okay. Item 8 is financial reports. Joy, welcome.
Thank you. Your reports are in your packet, and nothing really out of the routine or usual at this point in time. We've got 5 months left of this fiscal year. And if there's any questions, I'll address them.
Okay, any questions for Joy? All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to item 9, the President's Report. A couple things this evening. First, it was a tremendous pleasure to have been at the recent, I believe it's called Inspire Awards. Is that where our own Tom Von Lunen received his Citizen of the Year award? George did a nice job of being one of, I believe, 3 speakers who were regaling the crowd with wonderful stories about Mr. Von Lunen here. So that was a very nice event, and once again, congratulations to Tom on that. I also, over the last month, participated in that volunteer day at the Northern Illinois Food Bank in Geneva. I believe Leah organized that for several of us, so that was a nice event to give something back to the community that supports us so well. And I also attended the discussion about Ukraine by Michael Dixon, an architect, I believe from St. Charles, who did a very nice job covering a lot of ground on a very hot button geopolitical issue, I guess. And I also had a couple of guests with me that came all the way from Chicago to attend that. They enjoyed it very much. One was a girl who is from the Ukraine, and her husband who works with me. So they're on their way to the Ukraine this summer to attend a funeral, unfortunately, for her relative, but they were getting excited about that trip and wanted to come hear this speaker and enjoyed it very much. And they also gave rave reviews to our library as well. So I'd like to pass that along. So that's all for me this report. Item 10 then is good news or comments from the board. Does anyone have anything to share?
I attended the new Lyceum series on Lincoln and the camera.
Oh, okay.
And that was very well presented. It was a good night, very informative.
Okay. Thank you.
134 people.
Hmm.
How many were there for the Ukraine? Do you know offhand?
Offhand, I don't remember, but it was over 100.
Yeah. It's a good response.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Item 11 is correspondence and communications. It looks like we have a letter here from Mr. Dixon, who was the speaker on that Ukraine event.
We do, and we just passed it out tonight because it didn't make it in the packet, but very nice letter. Wanted to share with you.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Item 12, Director's Report. We have a memo from George in our packet here.
And it's interesting, statistically, the last couple months we've been seeing an increase in our visitors, our number of visits. We're still very flat, slightly declining in our overall statistics, but I thought it was interesting that our number of visits has started to slide back up slightly, and Not much in the written report. We did close the library on Sunday, February 1, because of the blizzard-like conditions, and it was a bad day, and I'm not sure there were any public libraries or many agencies open on that Sunday, but wanted to let you know about that. Really nothing else here at this time, but so I think, I know that Joanne and Stacy have some things to talk about.
Okay.
Just a couple of things. I'll send around a couple posters. We are in the final week and a half of Winter Library Club and Polar Palooza, so some of the events we've been having, the Train and Lego Day, the end of January, was very well attended. We had over 700 people there throughout the day, so they enjoyed seeing that and had a lot of compliments about either everybody loved the trains, or you'll see some cute pictures of kids just sitting there in front of the trains and just watching them go around the whole day. Polar Palooza, we have over 150 families, and I'm just sending around our logbook that are family activities with one of the rewards that families can earn, members of the family, our Polar Palooza patch, which was designed by one of our former librarians, Debbie Hassey, who has since moved away. And so those are a lot of fun and going very strongly, and the program concludes on Saturday, February 28th, and we'll have an event at 2 p.m. that day, The Wonderful World of Puppets. So we're looking forward to that. I also want to mention that coming up on March 2nd, we are going to be celebrating the Dr. Seuss's birthday with a celebration with stories, activities, and refreshments from 6 till 7:30 that evening. And we have students from Batavia High School joining us and will be assisting us with the program that evening. So we're looking forward to that. We haven't done anything in honor of Dr. Seuss's birthday for a while, so we're anxious to do that again.
Is that Read Across America?
That is Read Across America, right. First developed by National Education Association, and for a long time we hosted an event with teachers at the Batavia School District, and that kind of ran its course, and we hadn't done that for a year, but we decided to do that again this year. So, but we're doing it in-house with some students from Batavia High School this year. And the last thing I wanted to mention is I make mention about some collection changes in the Youth Services Department in my report, and one of them is moving our video game collection. We have a lot of video games, and they're very heavily used, but they're also, when we started that collection, we just put them on top of the magazines, and they've outgrown that area. So we were looking at different options of places to try to move that location to, and George suggested we try the little elevator alcove between the self-check and the elevator. So we have some temporary shelving up in that space, and one of our Jeff facilities, Jeff and Mike, put those shelving up today, and Kathleen Redmond, one of our librarians, moved the collection. And so we're going to see how that goes. If it looks like it's going to work there, we'll make it more permanent, and if not, we'll see where else we might be able to put that collection. But half a day so far, so good. And that's all I have.
Okay, questions for Joanne? All right, Stacy?
Couple items. First, earlier George mentioned a new service we launched yesterday. It's a service called Hoopla, and it allows Batavia cardholders to download movies, TV shows, music, and audiobooks through an app. We have instructions on the library website as well as at the Technology Petting Zoo near the reference desk. And to find it on the library website, on the home page, just click eBooks and eMedia and then choose Hoopla, and there are some instructions there. It's frighteningly easy to use. So if you have questions, please come and visit us at the reference desk. We'll be glad to help you install the app on your device and go through a checkout.
Apps available for both Android and Apple. Very easy to download, just seconds to download on my phones.
Are the checkouts of those e-materials time limited, time
Yes.
restricted?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, depending upon the format, there are standard checkout periods.
Okay.
3 days for the movies, 21 days for audiobooks and the music.
7 days for a CD. You actually get the whole CD, the the whole album at once rather than just single song.
Okay. All right.
It takes about 30 seconds to download. I did it last night. Watched half of a movie tonight on the elliptical digital.
Okay,
So-
cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's weirdly easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
The other item I
Great.
wanted to mention is just a reminder about our One Book, One Batavia grand finale coming up March 11th, which is a Wednesday, 7 o'clock. We're holding it at the Batavia Fine Arts Center. Author James Swanson, author of Manhunt, The 12-Day Chase for Lincoln's Killer, will be here to give a presentation. So we're looking forward to that event. Wednesday, March 11th, 7 o'clock.
Our goal is to fill all 900 seats, so invite your friends.
It's only 890. We got it. We got it.
890.
Okay. All right, questions for Stacy? Okay, thank you. Item 13, committee reports. Andrew, anything on facilities?
Yeah, we discussed a couple things. We went over the technology plan, which was part of the consent agenda. It's an annual report that the staff puts together kind of to review what we have in the building and what we want to move forward with in the building. There weren't really any questions with that. The item that was a question was the HVAC system. We've got an aging system that needs some repairs. We got a proposal from a local contractor to do the work from General Mechanical Services.
I'll have a whole report for you when we get to that.
Okay, so we'll cover that then as part of item number 15. And that was pretty much it.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then 13C is the outreach committee.
We had a discussion about some portraits that someone wanted to donate to us, who was a distant relative of the Gammons. from Gammon
Okay.
Farms. And we had a lot of discussion because the portraits were beautiful. They're in Florida right now, the woman George connected with her, which is so great. But we really decided that it was just so remote, the connection to the library to have those. One wasn't even a blood relative, it was through marriage. But they were beautiful. but
Okay.
We declined.
All right.
So.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Maureen on that issue? All right, 13E is the Batavia Public Library Foundation. Kara?
We're still continuing to pursue funding for the fire maps.
Okay.
And so that's going to, lots of good ideas in the works, and Marla Kenta, is that right?
Marla Kenta.
Yes, she's kind of heading that up for us, and so I think we're going to be successful in getting enough money to get those refurbished. And then there's, some of the board members are going to go and take a look at those maps again downtown on February 26th. So if anybody would like to attend, you can talk to George about going along.
I was going to say, if anybody wants to go along, the plan is to meet at the library and carpool. And I think the idea is to leave mid to late morning.
Around 11 or something.
Yeah, and
What day is this?
it's February 26th, whatever day of the week it is.
Thursday.
Thursday, February 26th. And the idea is to meet someplace for lunch and then go over.
We're hoping that we're going to, kind of to tie in with the ATV, that we want to start a documentary showing how the process is going along as far as like raising the money, and then also looking at how they're going to fix the maps. So we're just
Okay.
looking into that, and that would be the first time that we would try to get some footage for that.
Okay. All right. Questions for Kara about that one? All right, 13G is Link. George, anything to report there?
The budget's on the agenda coming up, and otherwise it's, there's, several ongoing issues in terms of a new strategic plan and changes in technology. One of the things that has engendered a lot of conversation lately is we need to, for technological reasons, migrated away from our ePay credit card system, which is tied to the Illinois Treasurer's Office and directly tied to Illinois funds, to a system that has been developed between Cersei Dynamics, our library system company, and ProPay, which is a credit card processing company. And the online aspect of that, people paying fees and fines online, actually, I think, is set up to work okay. It's the over-the-counter aspect of it that is, we're still working our way through how that will work and such, and we're still waiting for some answers from Cersei Dynamics on that. And so, nothing is as easy as one would hope it would be, but ePay, there are changes on the state level that will make ePay unavailable to us probably by July. So we're in the process of trying to make sure we have a seamless transition so that our patrons don't get adversely affected by that. So I'll report more as I know it.
Have we been successful in getting fines from people in that realm? Or,
Oh, yes,
I mean,
we-
or is it something that?
Oh, no, we actually collect quite a bit online and over the counter. I don't, do you have numbers in your head right now, Joy?
We probably collect over the circulation desk close to $2,000 a month with people paying with their credit cards.
Mhm, mhm.
And online, maybe $500 a month.
Yeah.
Our biggest credit card user would be Visa, then MasterCard. We get very, very few Amex, even though we accept it, and we get maybe a handful of Discovers a month, but yeah, so people do like to pay that way.
Yeah, the ease of it.
This
sure.
is successful.
We get a lot of $1, $2 charges, right, Kathy? Kind of drives us nuts, though, but we do.
2 cents.
Well, it's a convenience.
Yep.
I like to look at it as we wouldn't be getting those if we didn't have
Right,
the credit card.
that's why I'm just wondering, you know,
There's a
how
bit,
it's
yeah.
going to impact the.
Well, the idea is for us not to interrupt our service. But we're still waiting for some answers. Cersei Dynamics, the reporting function is perhaps one of our biggest concerns, even with the online, because we categorize what people pay as a fine or a lost book or a damaged book, that sort of thing. And the reporting function doesn't seem to be quite as, up to speed. And there's one library in Link Villa Park that's sort of the beta site for this within Link, and so we're getting some information from that. It's we're moving along. Pam in circulation and I met with Carol Daw to raise some questions about how the functionality related to the checkout desk piece. And Joy has been reviewing the documentation from ProPay and raised several questions on reporting and how that works. So we're doing our due diligence, but it's all the answers just really aren't there as I sit here today. So we're working on it. So that's probably the biggest thing on my mind related to Link right now. So.
Okay. And then 13H is BATV. Kara, anything to report there?
We're still moving along with new programming and trying to make those connections that, like I was just talking about with the foundation, finding historical things that happen in Batavia and reporting those with the programming. So just trying to get ourselves organized with marketing and putting that programming out there.
Okay. Any questions for Kara about that? All right. Item 14 is future agenda items. We have a report here in our packet regarding that.
We did the March agenda item tonight, so we'll be crossing that one off.
Okay.
So elections are coming up really quick.
Yes. All right. Okay. And then item 15, as Andrew had warned us is the HVAC system. I don't know if warning is the right term, but I guess I'll let him start off. And I don't have this.
There's nothing in your packet.
That's why,
because,
okay.
The Facilities Committee, if I may, Andrew.
Please.
Reviewed a proposal for 4 different projects that were bundled together relating to various aspects of our HVAC system, ranging from new igniter housing, burner gaskets and air filters for the boilers. These kind of things need to be replaced and cleaned and changed every number of years. And then some other issues with our air handlers, and including a three-way valve that is will stick open and cause the conference room and the cafe to either be beastly hot or terribly cold, depending on which way it's stuck. And then an issue relating to an expansion tank connected to the boiler system. And I've been doing a lot of research with Jeff, and got some pro bono feedback from an area engineering consulting firm that we've worked with in the past, in fact, that designed the replacement boiler system we installed a number of years ago. And tonight, my only recommendation tonight is to not approve anything, because one of the consultants that was basically providing some free review services for me used the term outrageous in relationship to one of the projects in terms of the number of hours of labor connected to the project. And I'm just not comfortable with some of the answers I've gotten yet. And I'm not uncomfortable with the firm that is in fact our we have a service contract with this company. I'm not uncomfortable with working with them, but I'm just not comfortable with all the answers I've got yet, mainly on the expansion tank project, which seems to be just priced higher than I really think it should, based on the research I've been doing. So I will come back to the Facilities Committee with better answers. I have confirmed that none of the 4 projects are emergency projects. The one that we probably would like to do the most is the valve that is getting stuck open. I think the 3 smaller projects I'm pretty close to pinning down, I think, a good answer for those. They actually all, individually, each of those projects, all fall within my authority to approve, but I'd work with, through Andrew or the Facilities Committee before doing anything there. But the expansion tank, I really feel like, I need to do some more, get a few more answers, and I just don't want us to pay more than we need to pay for this project.
Yeah, because the expansion tank was going to be up to $10,000, a little less than $10,000
Yeah.
to do that. Were you had talked about having somebody come out and inspect the existing expansion tank to determine if it needed replacement? Is that something you're still gonna?
Well, there's differences of opinion on that.
Okay.
It's showing, there's a little brush showing on it, and one opinion is that, quote, the expansion tank has numerous rusted areas and which will become large holes very soon, which of course that's way too vague of a statement for me. Ranging to, if it's not leaking, then you don't have an issue right at the moment. So we don't seem to have an emergency situation now. The rust areas seem to be on the surface of the tank, and maybe from a past, valve on the top leaking and sort of draining over the side. So.
Okay.
That's one of the questions I want to get an answer to, whether we actually have a situation where the tank has imminent failure coming forward, or whether in fact it's just a surface, a cosmetic issue. So,
Sure.
I don't want to replace the tank at all if it's a cosmetic issue. Why spend that kind of money?
So this company that you're working with has a maintenance agreement with us related to this boiler?
Related to our whole HVAC system.
Okay,
it's-
so there would be no benefit to us attempting to get other bids on this repair work?
We're not excluded from doing that, and I think that's an option to explore as well. I know that part of the research that Jeff was doing was to get comparable information, from other contractors to help us understand what the general pricing in this area would be, and that was another clue to me that maybe the number of hours where we were being charged was excessive for the amount of work that was involved. So
Okay.
I've talked to 3 different parties now, counting Jeff's research, and I think that I have to have some more discussions with our contractor before. But again, I'm assured by one of the consultants I talked to that there is no emergency situation with any of the projects that are being
Okay.
so. Otherwise, if there were, I would be recommending to solve that problem tonight. So I'm recommending no action tonight.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for George or Andrew on that? Okay. Item 15.5 is the link budget, which is item 5C2 in your packet. So we have a memo here with a proposed budget. Maybe I'll open it up to Tom to ask what was on his mind.
My concern with this is not so much the budget, but they're going to be running a deficit this year, and for the next number of years, it appears. This year, $21,000 deficit, and next year, as high as $76,000. And I assume that they have the reserves to do this, to pay this out of.
Which page are you looking at?
Let's see, it's not numbered, George, it's the second to last page in the back.
Oh,
You know what it is, Tom, they don't have, where they say total income, that's supplementary maintenance, and that web hosting, that's income too. So if you add those numbers together, I
He's
do
looking
believe-
at the spreadsheet that was attached to Tim's memo.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are illustrations that tie into that memo from Tim, where he basically recommended to continue the supplementary maintenance of $18,000, $2,000 per member. And so his attached note, he is basically spelling out, he attached those 2 charts to show his calculations in determining different scenarios. So I think the actual budget for this year
Break even.
does show a deficit of $21,000 and is tied into desire to actually bring down the amount of reserves. So it's actually an intentional process because the reserves are very, very high in this.
Well, according to their bylaws, they want to have between 9 and 12 months of operating budget, and right now they're at 18,
Right.
which is high.
Right.
But they're projecting out, by the year 2022, they're going to be a negative 14 months. I'm just wondering, my question is, are they doing anything, are they just doing this to run out the reserves to a negative position, or is there some point where they think in the next few years they'll be able to get into a positive position and stay in that 9 to 12 month range?
The intention is to stay within the 9 to 12 months range. The illustrations, the approval tonight is not for the projections that are part of Tim's memorandum. That's just to show the research that he's doing, because Tim is very fiscally, Tim Drzemski, the Link Treasurer, he's the director of Bloomingdale, very fiscally conservative, very interested in this issue. And as he says in his memo, he wants the process he's following, he wants to ensure that Link maintains a fiscally prudent financial future in terms of both short and long-term budgets and financial projections. So I don't think that he's recommending that we follow those projections out. But I think in the short term, he and the other members of the board were interested in reducing the reserves at least down to the 12-month level. The Franklin Park is leaving Link. I want to say it's either January 1st or July 1st. I'm not sure if I have the
June
date.
2016.
Yeah, so it's, so as of July 1st, 2016, they will no longer be a member of Link. So because of that.
I don't know what your schedule's like, but they're ready for you whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Okay.
They did fast. There's a concern on the Link board that we keep in mind that whatever revenue Franklin Park is contributing to the total will be gone, and so that's one of the concerns.
Right.
But the deficit this year was very much by plan in order to reduce a portion of that.
Okay. Well, then I'll make a motion that we approve the budget for Link for 2015-16.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Von Lemon, second by Jakubowski. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, let's do a roll call.
Okay. Beechman?
Aye.
Van Limmen?
Aye.
Jacobowski?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Schuster? Aye.
Okay, that Link budget is approved. And then item 16, right on time, is a recess to join the joint committee of the whole of the Batavia City Council. Do I hear a motion to recess to that joint session?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Jakubowski,
Second.
second by Schuster. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay.